Gabriel sends the beast with wrath, because he knows the time is short. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666.
Hello everybody, this is Reverend Jack Winters with the United Satanic Empire, and the topic I'd like to cover today was Jesus the Messiah? Was he the Savior? Was he this big important person that was prophesied in the Old Testament? I can sum that up in one word: no. Why wasn't he these? Simple. The Old Testament, in its predictions of this coming Savior, named the Savior Emmanuel. Was Jesus' name Emmanuel? No. Was he the Savior? Was he the Messiah? No. Why not? Well, Yahweh took prominence just over 2,000 years ago, and it's March 2009 right now. So, how was an imaginary religion going to produce a Messiah to save everybody? Can't save everybody if you're not really the Messiah. How did it come to be? People called him the Messiah. Simple. Joseph and Mary had premarital sex. Joseph was a full-grown adult. Mary had just hit her teenage years. Sounds like pedophilia today's standards. However, that's not the only Abrahamic religion that supports pedophilia. But anyway, Mary and Joseph were doing the horizontal polka, humping, jumping, whatever you want to call it. She ended up getting pregnant. And back in the days, in the Bible of their time, Mary would have been stoned to death. Joseph, nothing happened to him, but Mary would have been stoned to death. Well, it would appear that Joseph did love Mary, and that Mary did love life. So in order to avoid the righteous punishment of the day, they came up with this fabricated lie that she was pregnant with the Messiah, that some angel came down and impregnated her with the seed of God. Which God? But anyway, they came up with this story. They fed it to everybody, and everybody was so desperate in the day that they latched on to it, that they wanted it to be true. So they latched on to it, except the people in the know. They knew better. So what they did is they convinced Jesus of the same thing. And eventually, Jesus became a criminal. By community standards of the time, just like we apply our laws today, Jesus was a criminal. And what makes it even worse, to Christians especially should be worse, is he was a religious criminal. He would go into temples and desecrate them, blaspheme in them. Those are the words you guys choose to use. Those are the words that you apply to your holy temples. But regardless, he would go in and he would desecrate the temples with this delusion in his mind that his mom and dad had put there about him being some savior of the world. Well, then kindly explain to me why he was not named Emmanuel. If he was to fulfill the prophecies of the Old Testament, why was he not named Emmanuel? I will tell you, because Joseph and Mary were so afraid of committing blasphemy that they wouldn't name their bastard son Emmanuel. They didn't want to feel the wrath of this loving God that needs to torture people if they don't do exactly what he says and kiss his ass. And he doesn't want you to kiss his ass. He wants you to stick your tongue so far up his ass you can tickle his eyeballs from behind. So that's why they didn't name him Emmanuel. Was he a Christ? No, he was not perfect. Christ implies perfection. A perfect human being. Was he perfect? No, he was a criminal. Was he perfect? Why are books of years of his life missing? Oh, but I'm going to get into that later too because I've read them. I know some other things that go with them as well that can be documented. Was he perfect? If you doubt or question Yahweh, that makes you imperfect and you sin. Yet what did he say on the cross? He said on the cross, Father, my Father, why hast thou forsaken me? That sounds to me blatantly like he questioned his so-called Father and God. And as far as his resurrection, we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, because there was no resurrection, but we'll go into detail a little bit later. Was Judas a traitor? We'll go into that in another episode. Did Jesus commit suicide or allow himself to be a sacrifice? We're going to go into that a little bit later. But the main thing is, he was not a Christ. He was not a Savior. The Bible itself proves that he was not. So those of you that are going around and calling yourself Christians and following him, you're lying to yourself and you're